they're good for in society?
If they give them their bank card, that's pretty good.
That they
If they give me their bank card, they're good. Yes. Welcome to the channel. For my first ever video, we're going to be reacting to a video I've seen floating around the last week or so. It's from a channel called Reasoned, and the title is Asking Britons, Are Straight White Men the Problem? As a straight white male myself, and I'm also British, this is a very intriguing and interesting question asked around that I would like to see the response of. So let's get into it.
What are straight white men good for?
Straight white men?
Yeah.
Not a lot.
How's it
Not a lot.
going? My name is Jess and this is Reasons. Here in Shoreditch asking
Shoreditch,
people,
East
are
London,
straight white men
capital
the
of Britain.
problem? What are straight white men good for?
Ooh,
Ooh,
that's a hard one.
It's
I
tricky.
don't know.
it's
Do you
tricky.
think straight white men are important?
Oh,
Is he
Do
not
you
a
think
straight?
straight white men are important?
no.
We're utter fucking trash.
I mean,
We're all
sometimes
just
I
trash.
like how rational sometimes they might be, like really straightforward, like even about feelings, they are more like practical sometimes.
What
So he just said typically rational, straightforward, practical, and he implied a sort of emotional discipline and the ability to internalize emotions there. So that's what he's saying. Again, you can't really generalize, but it's not really offensive. All right.
What are straight white men good for?
Being rude and making you feel uncomfortable.
So it's just said there, straight white men are good at being rude. It's very interesting that she says that in a country that is globally famed and stereotyped for its manners. You know, please and thank you. So quite a basic foundation of English and British culture. So it's interesting that that's something she would say, considering that.
What would you say that they're good for?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Not answering questions, mate. Apparently, if he is straight, who knows?
Don't know.
Are straight white men important?
I mean, they think they're very important. You know, they're just as important as everyone else, but I do.
So they think they're very important, but they are just as important as everyone else. Bit contradictory there. Make your mind up.
Sometimes they get a bit inflated sense of self.
Do you think they're important?
No.
So what would you say they're good for?
Okay, straight off the bat, if you asked this question about any other of those three ingredients, straight, white, male, if you interchanged any of those three ingredients for anything else, sexuality, say gay or another race, black, Asian, Latino, male or female, if you interchange any of those three ingredients for any other ingredient, that question alone would get you cancelled tomorrow. But it's perfectly okay to ask that question, and if you responded to that question with that tone and that facial expression that she just expressed, you would be considered an extreme bigot, and someone would probably slap you on the street right there and then. So who knows?
I mean, they've got value, obviously, but the problem is that it's been them exclusively. So they're good at things, but just not everything all the
Good at things, like I'm guessing, you know, the road she stood on, probably the buildings behind her. Yeah, all right.
What do you think they're good for in society?
If they give them their bank card, that's pretty good.
That they
If they give me their bank card, they're good. That is mad. So she's more than willing to take this man's resources, but expects him to handle being demonized at every turn just for you're inherently evil. Just accept it and give me your money. What a joke.
occupy too many positions of power.
Yes.
Like what?
What am I allowed to say?
What do you want to say?
straight white old men in government, I don't think have a clue on how people want to live or need to live.
Do you think there are many straight white men in government?
I believe there is, yeah.
Prime Minister's not
quite
white.
high up on what you're seeing on the media. It's a lot more sort of. They're the ones that dictate to us, and they're the ones that tell us what we should and shouldn't be doing, and what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do.
Okay, so she just said there's too many straight white males in positions of power, and the government being an example. But if you simply take the percentages and ratios of, okay, straight, how much of the population is straight? A solid at least 80%. So the chances of straight people getting into positions of power, just like every other position, is quite likely, because simply the population is mostly straight. White, if you're talking about England, people who are from England, ethnically from England, they are white. And the majority of the UK population is white. So, and then you have to consider the question that Jordan Peterson said, why would you want to be in that position? Like, people think positions of power and importance are just, happy days. You just, I'm in power, make the world a better place, and go to sleep, happy days. Like, the amount of bullshit that you would have to deal with in that position of power. People complaining, you have to worry about like nuclear codes if you're going to be the Prime Minister, all this type of stuff. You have to worry about all of that. Who would actually want to do that? Like, think about it. The people who are willing to put in the hours and dedicated to a single field are most likely going to be men. If you talk about CEOs of high profile positions or big companies, that takes a lot of determination, strict determination, spending 70 hours a week on the same thing, keep going and going and going, and it's much more likely that a man is going to do that than a woman. So if you consider a straight white male in a position of importance in the UK, simply based on the population percentages and the fact that men are more likely to pursue this sort of field of study, it's just not ridiculous, because it just makes sense based on the population distribution. And if we backtrack to what the bald young man said before, he said from his mouth, straight white males are better at being disciplined and rational. In sort of a really important position of power, you would want someone who is emotionally disciplined and rational, right? Because if you're emotionally volatile and irrational, that's not going to be a good leader. You're not going to be able to take care of all the things that need to be taken care of if you yourself are irrational and emotionally undisciplined. So that's from the mouth of that bald gentleman before.
Are straight white men good for in society?
Diversity.
Yeah.
Do you think straight white men hold too many positions of power in society?
Yeah.
What are straight white men good for?
I don't know, sometimes they bash out a good few pop hits,
Well,
bit of Shawn
few
Mendes,
pop
you
hits.
know.
Do you
Entertain me.
think that the system is against anyone who isn't a straight white male?
I mean, I would say it's like a system based on like, heteronormative hegemony and like binary system. So they expect that a certain body inform a certain behavior, which I feel it's the mistake.
So he's just said there that apparently they expect a certain form, and it's a mistake. Well, if we talk about masculine traits, they come about from a few different ways. So one of them would be the responsibility. If you're responsible for, let's say, a woman, a child, a dog, you have to be, if someone else is in your care and they're relying on you for their health and safety, you have to have a decent degree of discipline with that. You have to have a certain degree of protective instinct. And so that's one method where those male masculine attributes can come from. Another one would be the awareness, or at least the experience, of the potential for violence and chaos that exists in this world. Someone who has embraced masculine attributes has most likely experienced the chaotic side of what can happen in this world. So that's just the way of dealing with it. So from that, you can also say that someone who has never had to embody these so-called masculine traits is someone who has never had to think about or experience the chaotic and potentially violent side of this world. And someone who has never had to embody those traits can only come from a sort of very privileged and sheltered position, because you've never had to worry about that. You've never had to physically think about protecting all the dangers over here. I need to keep an eye out on what's going on. So yeah, that's where those traits can come from.
No, like it run businesses are straight white men.
Why do you think that is?
It's just the way the system's built, I think.
How?
These are hard questions, Reese. You gotta help me here.
No, it's all
They're not hard questions. She's simply asking why and how. If your belief system, as soon as your belief system is challenged with one simple word of a question, one very very broad open question from one word, and you can't answer that question, then how strong can your belief system be if you can't handle a simple, vague, one-worded question?
Why do you think that there are so many men in positions of power?
It's that old school elite, isn't it? That's what's grown up, and it's still that stigma of that women aren't as powerful, women aren't as... We're getting there, we are slowly getting there, but we're nowhere near where we should be. It should be equals, not just men.
So notice there how she just said we, talking as in we all women. I'm actually going to put in a clip of the comedian Bill Burr right here. He'll explain it better than me.
Someday, there's gonna be the first woman president, all right? Which means you don't even know what her fucking platform is, and you automatically cheer. It's got the same genitalia. Fucking, I'm telling you, they're not smart people. Feminists, they're not as smart as they're coming off. I'm telling you.
But yes, it's very strange that you would root for someone simply for having the same genitalia. You're going to ignore the laws, the policies, how they want to run things, but they have the same genitalia as me, so that's somehow an extension of myself, and I'm going to support them regardless of how they see things, how they were born, how they were raised, what their view of inequality actually is. If you've got a very, very privileged woman, she's not going to have a clue on how to deal with inequality. So to support someone simply based on their genitalia, and you see it as an extension of yourself somehow, is very, very twisted. Well, that's the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed my commentary, my critique, if you want to see more, please hit subscribe. It'll massively help me out, and we can have a more fun tearing all this chaotic BS apart in a bit.